Hello, Jaguar students. It's your friendly neighborhood math teacher, Mr. Allred, and I am here to welcome you to Unit 1, mini lesson number 2, where we're going to talk today about adding with integers. Your learning goal today is that you can create zero pairs and formulate rules that you can use to add integers. Okay? Last week we did a lot of work with those chips when we did our directed numbers activity, and I hope that you might have some idea what the patterns are when you add positive and negative numbers, but we're going to talk today to try to finalize some of those thoughts and come up with a rule that we can use whenever we're adding or subtracting integers. Okay. On your paper, you're going to make sure that you mark entry number 3 there on the top right-hand corner of your page. This is your third entry in the table of contents. Okay. Edpuzzle is going to ask you 2 questions. It's going to ask you what an integer is and what an opposite is. That's right. An integer is the whole set of whole numbers and all of their opposites. So, for example, numbers like 3, negative 3, positive 7, negative 19, 16, 107, negative 96, all those are integers. Okay. To remind you of what opposites are, you already answered on an Edpuzzle, but opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0 on a number line, but on opposite sides of 0. So an example of 2 pairs of opposites would be like 8 and negative 8, or 17 and negative 17. Okay. We talked last week during our directed numbers activity with our red and yellow chips. We talked about additive inverses. An additive inverse is a number that you can add to another number to get 0. So, for example, you have like positive 6 plus negative 6, that equals 0. Also 9 and negative 9, if you add those together, you get 0. Or 12 and negative 12, if you add those together, you get 0. These are also called zero pairs. Okay, so you can also call these numbers that add together to create 0. You can call them zero pairs as well. That's what we called them last week sometimes as well. Okay, so those are 3 basic things you need to know before you start to add integers to each other. What we're going to do is we are going to work with some chips. You're going to draw some on your page. I'm going to have some on your screen. And we're going to try to figure out a couple of different addition with integer problems here. Okay. The first thing I want to do is do positive 4 plus negative 6. If I have 4 positive chips, there's my 4 yellow chips. You can draw little plus signs in between them. That might be what you would need to do. So you could draw a little plus sign in between each one, kind of just like this, if you wanted to. That could maybe help you decide that it's positive. And we're going to add negative 6 chips in there. So I'm going to throw 6 negative chips up in there. Okay. What's going to happen, like we talked about last week, is we're going to create some 0 pairs there when we do that. We're going to have a 0 pair here, a 0 pair here, a 0 pair there, and a 0 pair there. 4 of the pairs of red and yellow chips have canceled out, and that has left 2 red chips left. Okay. So 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2. There's 2 red chips left. That's worth negative 2 for our addition integer problem there. Okay. We could also do this same problem on a number line. So we could start from 0 and go to positive 4. Okay. After we do that, if we add negative 6, we're going to start at positive 4 here, and we're going to go 6 to the negative side over here. If you count with me, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you end up right there at negative 2. So because negative 6 has an absolute value that is 2 bigger than 4 is, 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2. 4 of the pairs cancel out, just like they did with the chips, and you're left with negative 2. So you can see that on a number line, or you can see with integer chips. Okay. If you try to do negative 4 plus 6, slightly different math problem there. You're going to start with 4 negative chips this time, and then you're going to throw 6 positive chips up there on your board or on your paper as well. When you cancel out the 0 pairs, you cancel out 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of 0, okay, or positive 1 and negative 1, and you're left with 2 positive chips that end up being left over, 2 positive chips right there. In short, negative 4 plus positive 6 should be positive 2. Okay. If you think about it for a second, it makes a little bit of sense. You start at 0, go back to -4, and then from -4 you count up +6. You're going to end up right back here at +2. Okay? -4 plus 6 should be +2. So I hope you're noticing something about the absolute values of these numbers and their signs. If you take a negative number and add a positive number to it, or take a positive number and add a negative number to it, there's something very specific that happens. Okay, we're going to do a couple more examples, and then we're going to come up with a rule for you today. Okay, if you take two negative numbers, like -4 plus -6, like we're about to do right here, you try to add them together. If you throw up 4 negative chips and then throw up 6 more negative chips, there are no 0 pairs. So because there are no 0 pairs, that means I can just count the number of negatives that I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 negative chips up there. So -4 plus -6 is just a really, really small negative number, like -10. Okay? When you add 2 negatives, the sum is still negative. So if you start at 0 and you go over -4, and then you start from -4 and you go over -6 more, okay, you're going to end up with -10, just like I just showed you with the chips. End up right here at -10, okay? So all we did there was we added the absolute values. We added the absolute values there, okay? I want you to try this guy. You try this guy for me, okay? We're going to see what you get, and then we're going to come up with some rules. All right. Good job. Good job there on that one. Even if you didn't quite get it right, pay attention to these rules. Maybe it'll help. Okay. If you add 2 positive integers, for example, you add 4 plus 5. That's the same thing it's always been. That's always been 9. Math has not changed. Okay. The rules are the same. Same signs, add and keep the signs. If you have 2 positive numbers like 4 plus 5, just add them up, keep the positive sign. Okay? The same thing is going to happen if you're trying to add 2 negative numbers like -4 plus -5. You can add up those negative integers. Okay? You're going to keep the sign the same, just like this last example that we did up here with -4 plus -6. And -4 plus -5 is -9. So with the same signs, you're going to add the 2 absolute values and then keep the sign. If it's 2 negatives, your answer is going to stay negative. If it's 2 positives, your answer is going to stay positive. Okay? Only big difference is if you have 2 different signs. So if it's positive and a negative, for example, 7 plus something like -9, okay? That's one thing that's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to subtract the 2 numbers, okay? And you're going to keep the sign of the larger number. So for example, if you look here at what I did, 7 plus -9, I subtracted, I did 9 minus 7, and I got 2. And then I realized that the -9 had a bigger absolute value than the positive 7 did. So I know that they would have 7 0 pairs and cancel out with 2 negative chips left over. If you think about chips, and you have -2 chips left over there. So you got 3 different rules. If you add 2 positive numbers, you're going to keep the sign, add them up. You add 2 negative numbers, keep the sign, add them up. If you have a positive and a negative and you're adding them, you got different signs, so you're going to subtract them and keep the larger sign. Those are the rules for adding integers. Okay? What you're going to do now is write a summary of what you learned and not a summary of what you did. Okay? When you come to class tomorrow, we'll look at some of these other math problems on the back. Please don't do these tonight for homework. Please stop where we are. Okay? Remember that of all the students I've ever taught, you are one of them. Okay? Make it a great day or not. The choice is yours. Thank you.